Welcome to Sports Talk with RNJ. I'm Steve Risser, along here with Justin and Afio, and we had the third college football rankings last night, and a couple things takeaways from me. I'll let Justin go first. I'll give Justin his takeaways, then I'll give my takeaways. So, Justin, what were your takeaways from the third installment of the college football rankings this year?
My assessment last night, number one, I think James Madison is officially out of a chance to be in the playoff.
Really?
I
Wow.
think
Wow.
now that Tulane kind of got in last night at I believe 24, I think that kind of rid off any chance that James Madison had left, and I think it's gonna whoever comes from the American is gonna get that G5 spot. My other one is I know what I said last week, and I should have preferenced that if Texas lost and the way Texas lost, they still have an outside chance to get in with some help. And I don't think that should be the case after they got dominated on the road against Georgia. Because now that they're behind Michigan, I don't think I don't think Michigan's gonna get in if they beat Ohio State.
Yeah, Michigan's behind them. They're 18 and Ohio
Yeah.
State's and Texas is 17. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think Michigan's gonna get in.
Wow.
That they don't have a great resume, so I get it because outside of outside like that Washington win, they don't have another good one. What else? The Miami Notre Dame one's kind of getting closer there. That one might matter pretty soon. But over and the last thing too is I was surprised Alabama dropped 6 spots just because they did outplay Oklahoma. It was a couple of turnovers. It was a blocked field goal. And they should have won that game. So I was a little surprised they dropped 6 spots there. But this year it kind of feels like losses matter. That's what I think the takeaway is, but I don't because I don't know if you know, but the chairman was Mark Rhodes at Baylor AD, who just stepped aside last week, and he stepped aside from Baylor. For he's taking it. So now it's the Arkansas AD Hunter Yurchek. So I don't know if the criteria changed, but that kind of seems the thing to think right now. But the losses matter. But and my last point is too for next week. If Ole Miss loses, because if Alabama's dropping 6 spots to a loss against Oklahoma, what's going to happen to Ole Miss if Mississippi State knocks them off next week? Because Lane's pretty distracted right now. He's in Gainesville,
with the Florida stuff.
Baton Rouge. Yeah. So
the Florida stuff. Yeah.
Ole Miss might be. Yeah. So Ole Miss might. Ole Miss, if they lose next week, might be in some trouble. I wouldn't be shocked they get out 10-2 if they're not in.
Yeah, I definitely could see Ole Miss being in trouble. I definitely could see Ole Miss being out. My biggest takeaway from it was the fact Bama, they beat 4 top 25 teams, and they're below Notre Dame. They should be ahead of Notre Dame. Bama should be ahead of Notre Dame. I think so. And another thing is Miami's too high at 13. It was one ranked team. How are they ahead of Vanderbilt? How are they ahead of Vanderbilt, who lost to Alabama and Texas? How are they ahead of Vanderbilt? I know Miami beat Notre Dame on opening day. I get it. But they're an ACC team. Vanderbilt's an SEC team. Put Vanderbilt ahead of Miami. I don't mind Georgia. I know I had a little bit of an issue with Utah being ahead of them. I don't mind them as much, seeing the fact that also Texas Tech and BYU. But come on. Miami lost to SMU and Louisville. One of those games at home. They should not be number 13. Should not be the highest ranked ACC team, and they have a very slim shot at making the ACC title game. How are they below Georgia Tech? So, to me, Miami is too high, and Bama should not be below Notre Dame.
Yeah, the Bama one I agree with you with. Miami Vandy is an interesting one. Yes, I get does Vandy have a better win than Notre Dame? Because I don't think they do. I think that's why. Because I think Miami's got the better win. Because I know at the time, Vandy beat South Carolina when they were 11th in the country. They beat LSU when they were top 10. They beat Missouri in the top 15. So, I get it with that, but I think if you look at it right now, Miami's got. I know they have the worst losses, but I think that's why, because Miami's got that win against Notre Dame, and Vandy doesn't have something like that right now. So I think that's why. But I can see your point why about that. And so, because Miami does have a slim shot to get into the ACC championship game right now. So, probably if Georgia Tech doesn't slip up in the next couple of weeks, or I guess just this, they just got, but yeah, I see what your point is there. I just think it's because Miami's got the win against Notre Dame that kind of keeps them in there.
Yeah, but I just don't think I think Miami's too high. I think Miami is too high, and I think Notre Dame is how is Notre Dame ahead of Alabama? Alabama four top 10 teams, 4 top 10 teams they lost to. I know Notre Dame lost to Miami and Texas A&M, but Alabama beat 4 weeks in a row. Beat Georgia, beat Tennessee, beat Georgia, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Missouri. They beat 4 teams that are in the top 25, and they're below Notre Dame. They should at least be. All right, I get Oklahoma being ahead of them because Oklahoma beat them, but come on, really ahead of Notre Dame.
Yeah, that was a little surprising. I know metric-wise, Notre Dame is top 3-ish. Like Notre Dame metrics are very, very good. And and a lot of people I know have them power ranked in the top 3 in the country. So I think maybe that's why that kind of the metrics wise, everybody loves Notre Dame. Yeah, I was a little shocked because Alabama's got the big time wins at Notre Dame's. Lost their big 2. I know they got the one against USC right now. They did beat Pitt last week, which they were, they're not in the top 25 anymore. But yeah, that was also a little surprising to me because, as I mentioned, I was shocked they dropped Bama 6 spots. I really was. Because again, they were the better team Saturday. It was just a couple of turnovers that kind of hurt them. So I'm a little surprised they just didn't flip-flop Notre Dame and Bama, but I could see why Uconn was ahead of Alabama, but I was a little shocked that they were ahead of Notre Dame.
Yeah, they shouldn't be. To me, they should not be. Alabama should be ahead of Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame should be. They should be okay. I'll take them in the playoff, but they should not be ahead of Alabama. There's no way. There's no way to me they should be ahead of Alabama. But at the top, I'd say, and I know I've been critical of Indiana, Ohio State at the top. Seeing what happened last week with Texas A&M, I do think that Ohio State and Indiana should be the top 2 teams, and A&M should be 3.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think those Ohio State and Indiana should be top 2 right now. A&M playing, of course they're playing Stanford this weekend.
Oh God.
Just because I know my you know me, I know my FCS knowledge. Stanford's bottom 5 in the FCS, and there's probably D2 teams that are better than A&M. I mean, better than Stanford. This Stanford, so A&M should win by 60 this week plus.
That's crazy.
Before Texas.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's
the thing. That's why this week of college football, this is the worst week of college football because you see who some of these teams are playing this week. I think Alabama's playing some bad Texas A&M. Yeah, that's the thing with the SEC. That's why they need to add the 9th conference game, and they've added it, right? I think.
Oh yeah, it's about time those clowns did it.
That's why they needed to add that 9th conference game because this week is terrible. Tennessee, Florida is the primetime ABC game. Tennessee, Florida. And then the big noon Saturday game is Rutgers, Ohio State. That's why this is the worst week. It's a great week next week. It's rivalry week. But this week's terrible. This week of college football is terrible. And the reason why it's terrible, and you've been saying this, I'll give you credit, you've been saying this for years, is because the SEC plays these cupcake teams in November, which is thank God it's ending. Thank God the SEC playing these cupcakes in November is ending.
Yeah. Hey, credit to them. They gained the system with it. They have, but it's all over. Thankfully, because again, because the thing with me is everybody. Look, the SEC is the best kind. Don't get me wrong, but it's it's week in, week out, the physicality, the toughness. All you're playing a great team. It's well, the Big Ten's been playing. You can't tell me that until you play 9 conference games a year. Till then, sure. But you play an 8 and you can afford to play the garbage, the week before, then you can't. Some of the SEC stuff kind of gets to me. It's a great conference, but when you can add a cupcake before your rivalry, it makes things a little bit easier. So I'm glad they're going to 9. And they should have done it a long time ago when the Big 12 did it, and I know the Big Ten's been doing it for years too. So I think the ACC too is going to go to it. 2027, 2028? Yeah, because I know there's some rumors now North Carolina might not be coming to rent. So unfortunately, we may not get Bill off the rent. So that might be the game that North Carolina cancels.
Is Bill even going to be there by then? I doubt Bill.
That's a good point. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah.
So
I had one more takeaway too. If you're the
yeah,
Big 12, you have to feel really, really good where you're at. You got the top team with Texas Tech. You
yep,
got BYU and Utah sitting there at 11, 12.
yep.
And then you got at the back end Houston and Arizona State. So you got 5 teams in the ranking. So if you're the Big 12, feeling pretty good right now. Too about kind of the future and kind of because last year everybody was making fun of the Big 12, but they got some good teams. They got that top tier team that they've been missing, and hopefully Texas Tech could stay there with the budget that they have of the oil money they got down there.
Yeah, you got 3 teams with a chance. I'll give you that three teams with a chance. But yeah, two yeah, good year for the Big 12. It really has been a good year for the Big 12. I'll give them that. They've established themselves as the third best conference behind the SEC and the Big 10. So yeah, it's a really good year for the Big 12. So yeah, these are the rankings. I mean, not a ton of surprises this week, but we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks when things get even more bigger and bigger with the rankings. But we got to move on to the games this week, and we're going to start in the Big Ten with the biggest game of the week. Who would have thought this would be a Big Ten game? We ever thought this would be a Big Ten game, but it is.
I don't
with
like
USC
it.
with USC and Oregon. And in this game, I think that USC's offense will keep them in it with Maeva and Lemon. I think they'll keep them in it, but I think Dante Moore is going to be too much for him. I think Dante Moore is going to go big game this week. I think Oregon's getting into the 30s. I think Whittington's going to run the ball well. I think DeCarry Moore is going to have a good game too. And I'm going Oregon here. I'm going Dan Lanning by 10. I don't think Dan Lanning loses this to USC at home when he's a 9.5-point favorite. I'm going with Dan Lanning's squad. I got Oregon beating USC. But Justin, can USC win this game and keep their college football playoff hopes alive?
I don't think so. I got the Ducks in this one as well, 31-20. Contrasting styles. Oregon wants to win this game up front, the line of scrimmage. USC wants to win it with their skill guys, hit the big plays, and Oregon's been very good at limiting the big plays and the explosive plays that USC wants to hit on. Miami hasn't played great on the road this year. He's been much better at home. And USC's been a second half team, and this is a Oregon team you better show up in the first half against. Some injury concerns in this one for the Trojans. They might be down their starting safety, so trying to guard Siddique, one of the better tight ends in the country. Good luck. And then they might be down their left tackle, who was out the Illinois game, and his backup got absolutely just got abused.
And Uconn is a good pass rusher too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that could spell some problems for the Ducks. Not sure if Diake Moore is going to play. He's been banged up. I don't think he played last week. I'm not sure if he's going to give it a go this week. But either way, I think Oregon takes care of business. They looked a lot better last week against Minnesota. I think they continue to roll here. And, big one next week against Washington.
Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, at Washington, too. That's a big game. That is a big game at Washington next week. And the question, too, about this game is say USC wins. Does it put them in the play? Does it put them in the 12-team field? And if Oregon loses, are they out of the field? I think a win wouldn't put I think it would put USC just outside the field, and I think it would knock Oregon out of the field.
Yeah, I think Oregon's got to win out. I think they have because next week at Washington 2 is going to be tough. Like Oregon's got to win these next 2 because I think 10-2 might be left out here. So I'm with you. I think they got to win out here. USC is interesting. They'll take care of it because they do have the Michigan win, and then they'll have Oregon, which will be one of the better ones. So there would be 2 big ones. Depending on what Vandy does which Vandy's got to go to Tennessee next week. That won't be easy. I think Miami's probably going to lose next week at Pitt. And then do they take BYU or Utah over a 10-2 Trojan team? That would be the question. Yeah. So I think USC is going to need some help, but I think it's possible if they can win on Saturday, but they definitely need some help.
Oh, absolutely. They definitely need help. USC definitely needs help in this game over Oregon. There's no question about that. They definitely need help to get in, but they still have a chance. It's a huge game. College game day is going to be there in Eugene. Second time they've been in an Oregon game. I was there the last time they were there when they beat Penn State. Another reason why Oregon needs to win is their best win is against Iowa. I know they want the whiteout at Penn State, and I've heard the committee might be keeping that into having that and putting that into consideration because Penn State was 3-0 going into that game. But Oregon, Oregon definitely needs this win. Oregon definitely needs this win, or I think they're out. I think if Oregon wins, if they beat the USC and Washington, they're definitely in. I think they need to go. I agree with you. I think they need to go 10-2, and obviously USC needs to go 10-2 as well to have any shot. To USC for any shot, but Oregon has to go 11-1 to get in.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, Oregon's got to win these last two. Washington's a great home team, so and that's a heated rivalry. Those two teams hate each other, and yeah, USC two's got to take care of business the next 2 weeks, which I think this is gonna be a tough one. They're not a great team. Like they should have lost to Nebraska if Raiola didn't get hurt. So they're not a great road team. They really haven't under Lincoln Riley. This is one that he would really need. He's done a good job of getting that program back. The defense has gotten better. I think they've gotten better in the trenches the last couple of years, but the USC to get back to the level that Pete Carroll had them under, this is a game you got to win to kind of continue that momentum. And I know too on the recruiting trail, he's done a pretty good job. And I know trying to get better, trying to keep the kids in Southern California home. I know it's been tough for USC the last couple of years, and I know this would probably go a long way to helping that out.
Yeah, exactly. Big game for both teams on Saturday. Now we got an SEC matchup in Norman as Missouri takes on Oklahoma, and I think John Mateer plays well again here. I think Oklahoma's defense plays well, and I think Oklahoma wins this one by double digits. I got the Sooners moving closer to clinching that spot in the college football playoff. I got Oklahoma beating Missouri 27-17. But Justin, can Missouri ruin Oklahoma's hopes to make the college football playoff?
I don't think so. Not the Sooners got last week. I don't think they give it up now. I got the Sooners in this one, 24-14. Beauperville was warming up last week before the game. I can't imagine he plays, but I'm surprised he's even out there because I thought that was like he was gonna be out for the rest of the year with that ankle injury. And Matt Zollers hasn't been great throwing the football around, and Ahmad Hardy, who had their running back who had 300 rushing yards last week against a bad Mississippi State rush defense. This is a tale of, Missouri's great with their rushing attack, and Oklahoma's stout at stopping it. And I think Oklahoma's a better team, and I think Oklahoma's secondary played pretty well last week. I thought they've gotten better from that Tennessee game, and I think the low-scoring football game, and I think the Sooners get the win here. Get the win here at home against Missouri.
Yeah, I think they do too. Because then they play LSU. Oklahoma's in a really good spot. I mean, the last 2 weeks, going to Knoxville, going to Tuscaloosa, huge wins for Oklahoma. Huge wins, rebounding from their losses to Ole Miss and Texas. So huge wins for Mateer in Oklahoma. Brett Venables done a really good job this year. He's got a really good spot. They won't get in the SEC championship game, but they got a really good chance to get into the college football playoff. The Oklahoma Sooners definitely do. Now we move on to the ACC and got a big game in the ACC. This is the game Pat Narduzzi, it was hyped. Now, he didn't want to be ready to play Notre Dame last week, but he's hyping this one up against Georgia Tech. But I think Haynes King gets it done here. I think Georgia Tech wins this one 27-20. And correct me, do they clinch a spot in the ACC title game with a win?
Yes, they will, because next week they got Georgia.
Okay.
Mercedes.
Okay. So they clinch a spot with a win.
Yeah,
they'll clinch a spot. So they'll clinch a spot in the ACC title game with a win. So I think Georgia Tech will clinch a spot in the ACC title game, and they will beat Pitt. So I got Georgia Tech here beating Pitt, 27-20. I got Georgia Tech over Pitt, 27-20.
Yeah, I got the L-Jacks here as well, 35-31. Pitt second out of, as you mentioned, with Notre Dame. Second to 3 opportunities here to play spoiler because next week they got Miami coming up to Pittsburgh. So I think, good chance there could be a lot of points. Georgia Tech should have lost last week to Boston College. They gave up 530-something yards to Boston College.
Yeah. Which is awful. And BC's terrible.
Yeah, BC is one of the worst Power 5 conference teams out there. The thing in this one, too, is Pitt loves to play a lot of zone coverage. And Haynes King, who can take off and run when stuff breaks down, can that help Pittsburgh kind of help contain that instead of being a man-to-man coverage where, backs are turned and he can take off and run. So maybe that helps out Pitt in this one. But I'm going to take Haynes King over Mason Heischel in this one. I got Tech headed to 10-1 before 10-1 headed to showdown next week against Georgia.
Yeah, we'll see. That'll be a good game. That's a Saturday after. That's a Friday afternoon. That's during the Eagles Bears. I think that's a.
Is it?
On Friday after Thanksgiving. I think it's during.
Yeah, Uconn, Illinois too.
Uconn plays Illinois, in the afternoon. Yeah, Uconn plays Illinois, but yeah, that's right after Eagles Bears. So it should be an interesting one between Pitt and Georgia Tech. That should be an interesting one. So what's Pitt's chances to make the ACC title game? They need a lot of help.
Yeah, I think they got to win the next 2 weeks. And
So the
then
Virginia Tech, they beat Virginia. They're in, right? UVA beats Virginia Tech.
yeah, then they'd be in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah, there's a ton of scenarios.
So
I don't know
Pitt
off
needs
the
help.
top of the head,
They
but
need to win. So they need to win out, and they need help.
yeah, they're gonna need to win out. Which I think they could beat Miami next week.
Yeah,
That's in Pittsburgh, Miami coming up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're
Miami
live.
playing out in the cold. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But speaking of Miami, they head to Virginia Tech on Saturday to face the Hokies. And I think even on the road, Carson Beck has a good game, throws a couple touchdown passes. Miami's defense forced a couple turnovers for Virginia Tech, and I got Miami here 30-17 over Virginia Tech. Over Virginia Tech. But Justin, can the momentum of James Franklin coming spark Virginia Tech to pull an upset win against Miami?
I don't think so. I got the Canes 34-13. He just I know we'll get to that. Franklin did have his press conference this morning. I didn't see it yet. I'll have to watch that afterwards. But yeah, in this spot too, I did look at the weather. It's going to be like 60 degrees on Blacksburg on Saturday. So like I don't think the weather is going to bother the Miami guys in this one. But Miami's going to get after Kieran Jones in this one because Virginia Tech has one of the worst offensive lines, and they've not done a pretty good job protecting them all year. So I think as long as Coach Beck protects the football, I think that defense is going to play really, really well in this spot. Does Virginia Tech play hard? Maybe that Franklin's going to be on the sideline trying to play for a spot next year. I think it's possible, but I just think Miami's got a lot of talent here. And I know for Miami here, I just had it. They got to win. They must win they got to beat Virginia Tech and Pitt, and then they also need like a Virginia losing to Virginia Tech, and I think a other bunch of stuff. So Miami's got to take care of business here, and I think they do against the Hokies.
Yeah, I think they do as well. But the big story with Virginia Tech is James Franklin. James Franklin getting hired as the Virginia Tech head coach. That's the big story. Franklin getting hired as the Virginia Tech head coach, and I've watched James Franklin for 12 years, so I'll start with my thoughts on hire. I think this is a great hire for Virginia Tech. I really think it does because he won't win a national title with them, but he'll bring them back to respectability, and he will have them. I will guarantee you this: he will have them on top of the ACC, and I think he wins at least 2 ACC titles, and he definitely wins an ACC title in the next 5 years. I absolutely think he wins an ACC title in the next 5 years. Guy's a great recruiter, good coach, not a great coach, but a good coach and a great recruiter. I mean, he won a Big Ten title. So, and he beat a Wisconsin team in the Big Ten championship game that had TJ Watt. So, yeah, last year he got Penn State to the college football semifinal. So he won't win a national title at Virginia Tech, but I do think he's going to win a couple ACC titles. I think this is a great fit. I'm so happy he's not going to the SEC. This is a great fit for James Franklin. I think he's definitely going to do big things. In my opinion, he's definitely going to do big things at Virginia Tech.
Yeah, oh yeah. I think it's a home run hire for Virginia Tech. And I was actually shocked because it was the AD that when they fired Brent Pry at when they did back in like October or September. He actually had all the how much schools are in the ACC, the budgets and all that, and how much schools are paying. Virginia Tech was last of all the ACC schools for public and spending for football, which I was shocked about. And they were behind, I think, 4 private schools. They didn't specifically show the names, but like they were 14th in the conference in spending. I guess they got a huge chunk. They're going to start spending some real money now. They're going to start trying to get back to a respectable level. And I think James Franklin's going to help bring them that. I'm with you because you look at the rest of the ACC, we've talked about Clemson's problems. Like they're kind of on the way down. You never know what you're going to get out of Miami. Florida State, we'll see what they do with the head coach. Like this conference is gettable. And I think James Franklin's going to kill at Virginia Tech. I think he's going to do, again, all Virginia Tech wants to do is just get to a playoff. They just want, that's all, and he'll do that, and he'll recruit the DMV area, which I know Virginia Tech struggled the last couple of years, and that's where Beamer thrived in that area. He's gonna get them back to respectability. So I love the hire for Virginia Tech. I thought that from the minute that Penn State fired him, that's where he should go. They did, and heck of a hire. And look, I hope Virginia Tech gets good again because the Enter Sandman entrance is the best one in all sports.
Amazing.
That is
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. You're going to hear it with James Franklin. I'm really happy for him. And it shows you he's a good coach. It shows you he's a good coach that he got hired this quickly. It shows you he's a respected college football head coach that he got hired. Listen, he's not a great coach. He had trouble in big games. I get it. but he's in the perfect spot. He's in the perfect spot. In the ACC, he is in the perfect spot where I think he's going to have a decade. I think he have at least a decade of success at Virginia Tech. I think he really is.
Oh yeah. He absolutely will. And I know Beamer never got it done the big moments either. It's like top 5 teams. So, and they still love Beamer.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they love Beamer, so they better love James Franklin.
Yeah.
They're going to love Frank Beamer for not getting it done against top 5 teams. I know Frank Beamer got him to a national title game, but I think a lot of that had to do with the quarterback. They had one of the best college quarterbacks of all time in Mike Vick, who had an unbelievable season that year. So, a lot of it had to do with who the quarterback was, but still, Virginia Tech is a great hire. This is a great hire for Virginia Tech, an awesome hire. Bringing in James Franklin, because just isn't a team like if you go into an SEC school, say Florida hired him, it wouldn't be that good, or LSU hired him, it wouldn't be a good hire because you really can't win a national title with this guy, and he'll get beat up in the SEC. This guy, Franklin coaching the ACC, great hire for Virginia Tech.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it absolutely is. It's a great hire, and Virginia Tech. Look, Beamer again because they'd always get to the Orange Bowl, they always get killed, and again, if Virginia Tech just wins some ACC titles, they're gonna love Franklin. So maybe at a point they want to get over that hump to get a national championship. That's a long way from now, and he's going to get back to respectable, and it's going to be great for the sport to have Virginia Tech back, and I think it'd be great for the ACC to have them back. So love that Sandman entrance. That's one of the stadiums I really need to go check out. So I want to be in that atmosphere for that.
Yeah, it's a great. I've heard it's a great atmosphere in Blacksburg when they're good. I heard it's a great atmosphere when they're good. Now, run to the ACC. We got Louisville taking on SMU. I think this is a close competitive game, and I'm going to go with Rhett Lashley's squad to pull it out at home. I got SMU winning this game. I got SMU winning this one. I got them winning at 30-27. But Justin, can Louisville ruin SMU's chances to get into the ACC title game?
No, I got the Mustangs as well, 30-24. Sounds like there's some locker room maybe falling apart in Louisville. They should have beat Clemson last week. Yeah, well, I guess with the players, some of Milton Moss hasn't played well, so looks like behind the scenes there's some issues going on right now down there, and SMU coming off the bye week here, they're getting healthier. Louisville's been banged up, and Milton Moss, when you get pressure on him, has really struggled this year, and I think SMU can kind of do that because and SMU's been very good against the run this year. So I'm going to take SMU and Kevin Jennings to play well here against Louisville to get the victory here and keep their slim ACC championship hopes alive.
All right, we're going to match up in the Big Ten between Rutgers and Ohio State, and I think Ohio State cruises on their way to playing Michigan. I got Ohio State here big. I think saying it's a big day. I think Ohio State runs all over Rutgers. 45-10 Ohio State. Justin, I assume you got the same.
Yeah, I got Buckeyes 31-7. Decent chance Jeremiah Smith's going to be out. He did not play in the second half against UCLA. And Cardell Tate missed the last 2 weeks. I don't expect either or to play in this game.
Will they be back for Michigan? That's the big question.
Yeah, I think they will. I know Ryan Day's very coy with it right now, but I assume they're going to be. I assume it's just precautionary stuff. So I think maybe, Ohio State's is going to try to run the football 45 times, just get out of there with the victory. Rutgers' offense is pretty good, but they're not up to the Greg Schiano's standards of defense this year. And I think Stan plays pretty well. I think that rushing attack gets going. Maybe, but I think that Ohio State defense, they're awesome. And I think Rutgers have a tough time scoring.
All right, we stay in the Big Ten between Michigan and Maryland. And Michigan had a loss this week. They lost their running back. They lost Haynes, their running back, for the season. But I do think Bryce Underwood wins this game. I think he does. I think Michigan's defense and Underwood wins this. I got Michigan over Maryland 24-13. But Justin, could Maryland ruin Michigan's season on Saturday?
I think they keep it close. Got the Wolverines 24-7. Jordan Marshall, Michigan's second string running back, also going to be out this week. I think he's going to play next week. I know his shoulder's been banged up. I expect him to go. So they're down to the third string running back. Mike Loxley got the he's going to be back for 2026, which I think is a good thing because Malik Washington's got some promise, and they got a couple of defensive linemen on for the Terrapins who, sounds like they're going to pay up to keep those guys around. So some young talent there in Maryland that can help them in the years to come here. I know Maryland's got some of the I think they might still lead the country drop passes, but I think in this one, with that young defensive line, I think Maryland can kind of keep them in it. Bryce Underwood and that they got lucky to get out Northwestern with a win last week. So I got Michigan on the road here by a touchdown. I think Maryland keeps it close.
All righty, we got a matchup in the SEC between. It's funny. This is like a 3:30 game. This should be like an SEC network game, but this week because the SEC doesn't want to play anyone, they don't want to play that ninth conference game. Or even get a bigger rant when I talk about the game that's at night in the SEC. But because the SEC doesn't want to play that ninth conference game, this is the game. We've got 2-8 Arkansas heading to Texas, and I think Arch Manning plays well. This is a bounce back week. Arch Manning plays well in this game, throws 3 or 4 touchdowns. I got Texas keeping their very, very, very slim college football playoff hopes alive. I got Texas beating Arkansas 31-20.
Yeah, I got Texas well here, 31-20. It's a rivalry game. These two.
I know it. Did they used to play it? Did they used to play it in Dallas? No, that's A&M. That's my bad. That's A&M.
Yeah, it's A&M.
That's A&M.
Yeah,
that's A&M.
Yeah. I know they first time they played like 1894, I believe it was. I saw. So I know it's a big rivalry. I know for Arkansas in this, I could see them beating Texas. I could see them losing by 30 because Arkansas very just very variant with their offense, and they can't stop anything. But the problem is Texas' weakness is their offensive line, and Arkansas can't create a ton of pressure. I don't think they will, even in this one. And Texas hasn't lost back-to-back games since 2021. I don't think it's going to happen this week, but it's a sandwich spot with the Aggies on deck next week. So this is where Arkansas can get them, but I think Texas does take care of business at home.
Alrighty, matchup in Nashville between Kentucky and Vanderbilt. And with this Vanderbilt season on the line, I think Diego Pavia comes up as a big day. I'm going with Vandy here to beat Kentucky 31-17. But can Mark Stoops' crew ruin things for Vandy on Saturday?
I think keep it close, but I got the Commodores as well, 28-17. Cutter Boyle, their Kentucky quarterback, played pretty well of late. And Diego Pavia and rest of the seniors, a lot of them who've been there for this turnaround. Final home game probably, and I think Pavia plays pretty well. Kentucky's got to keep him in the pocket, make him strictly a pocket passer. Vandy needs some help to get into the playoff here, but I think they do take care of business here going to Knoxville next week for a big one.
All right, we got a matchup in the Big 12 between Utah and Kansas State. Utah trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. Dylan Dampierre, I think, has a big game here against Kansas State. I think Utah cruises here. I got them 30-10 over the Kansas State Wildcats.
Yeah, I got the Utes as well, 35-14. It sounds like Dampierre is going to be out again. It's going to be Bert Ficklin.
Oh, really? Ficklin again.
Yeah.
Bert Ficklin. He had that big run last week against Baylor.
He did. He's looked pretty good. And the way Whitting has been talking about him, I think he likes him more than Dampierre at this point, which a little surprised, but Bert Fickin's been playing well, so I'm not going to question him there on that. And for Kansas State, they should have lost Oklahoma State last week. They got outplayed, and Oklahoma State just coughed up the football 5 times, and that kind of would cost them. And Utah ran all over Baylor, and defensively, they can't stop anything. And I think Utah, again, plays well here at home, and they're really peaking at the right time. And I think they win this game 35-14.
All right, I don't get why this is the Saturday night game, but, again, this is what happens, SEC, when you only play 8 conference games. You got Tennessee and Florida. So you got 7-3, a Tennessee team that has probably a 0.1% chance to make the college football playoff against a Florida team that's absolutely terrible. But I'm going to go Tennessee here. I'm going to go Tennessee in a close one, 27-20. Justin, who you got?
Yeah, I got the Vols, 27-21. The Vols have not won here since 2003.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Who was the quarterback in those days? Clausen or somebody? I can't remember who the quarterback was.
Yeah, what's his face?
Yeah, I can't even remember who the quarterback. But that was back in the Fulmer era. The Fulmer era.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
The last time.
Yeah, he was gone 2003.
Wow, 2003.
Yeah.
Last time they won. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's been a while for the Vols since they gone to Gainesville and got this victory. But I think in this one, I think they get it done finally. This is the latest these two teams feel like they've ever played.
Yeah, because I remember they used to play September. They'd always play in September, I remember. Yeah, this is really late for these two teams.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too just now. Like, it is late. They never play this late in the year, but here we are. I think they were hoping it was going to mean more, but Florida's only scored 25 points once this year against a Power 4 team. Tennessee's scored 25 in all but one game. Florida showed a lot of fight last week. Again, they could spoil Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee's great. They don't have much of a shot, but hey, they can knock them off. Next week they got Florida State. So they can play, So I expect them to fight here, but I think Aguilar plays well enough, and they do get the Vols do get the win here. But Gainesville on a Saturday night could always be tricky.
It could be. Oh, absolutely. I agree. Gainesville definitely because you saw Texas losing Gainesville earlier in the year. So yeah, you're right. Gainesville definitely could be tricky, but I do think Tennessee gets the win. We'll wrap up talking about BYU and Cincy. I think this is a close competitive game, but I think BYU keeps their playoff hopes alive. I got BYU winning this one 24-20, but Justin, can Cincinnati ruin BYU's season?
I'm gonna go with the Bearcats here, 30-24.
Ooh,
I'm gonna
wow, going
take
Bearcats.
the
Wow,
upset.
I agree
Yeah,
with the
I
upset.
know Brandon Sorsby has not played well the last couple weeks. I know the Bearcats as a whole haven't played well. I think last week was a look ahead to this matchup. Saturday night, Fox, big new kickoffs. I think it's the first time big new kickoffs been in Cincinnati. So
No, they're actually big. It's an 8 o'clock game. Big noon is Ohio. I don't know why they're doing so.
yeah,
Ohio State.
the crew's gonna be the crew's gonna
Oh,
be
but the Gus
the
and those
Gus is
guys are
gonna
going to be
be
there.
there. Yeah,
Oh,
like
okay.
their pregame
But
still
are
gonna
they
be in
Are they
Cincy. Yeah.
And Gus will be there. Gus will be in Cincy.
Gus is gonna. I think Gus is gonna be in Ohio State. I don't know why, but they're going to Ohio
Because
State.
the noon
Rutgers.
spot. Why? I think they
Yeah.
just don't want. I think here's the reason why they don't want to. Ohio State probably doesn't want to play a night game or something, and in the cold weather against Rutgers, they just want to play a day game.
Yeah, because they just played a night game last week too.
Because it seems like there's been a lot of places where the crew's been at the Big 12 game, but the Gus and Joe have been at the Big 10 game.
Yeah. So the crew's gonna be there. Probably, I think the first time they've been at Cincinnati, and I think it's Saturday night in Nippert Stadium. I think Storrs plays pretty well. And I think Cincinnati's secondary is shaky, but so I think Bear Bachmeier plays pretty well in this one. But I don't think the Bearcats here at home. I like BYU's offense. They played really well last week against TCU. But a Saturday night in Cincinnati, I'm going to take the chance here with Brandon Storsby on senior night to play well and get the upset.
You think Cincinnati is going to get the upset over BYU? So not the greatest week of college football, but still is a week of college football. So
because I look at it two ways. Because it's like this is the last real Saturday too, because you have all the Black Friday games. So this is the last real Saturday slate, and it kind of stinks. But it's also it's the last Saturday slate that we have a full one until August. So of next year. So it's
so you're still looking forward to it.
Yeah, so looking forward to it. I am, and then we got FCS playoffs too next week, which hopefully my New Hampshire Wildcats will sneak in.
Yeah, we'll see. Of course, you're into those FCS playoffs. Of course, you are. But all right, we got to move on to college basketball. We got a huge matchup in Storrs tonight. We got number 4 Arizona taking on number 3 Uconn. And Justin, I'll go to you. What does Uconn? Right off the bat, I'll go to you. What does Uconn got to do? What are 3 things Uconn has to do to win this game against Arizona?
Number 1, keep Kodak P and Jaden Bradley in check. Those are their 2 big scores. They have some other ones. DeSorio, who could knock it down. Burrs, who struggled from 3 as a freshman, but can knock it down. Those Bradley and Pete will not take a ton of threes. Bradley's a downhill guard who wants to get to the basket. Pretty skilled, and Pete. He takes a lot of. He can get to the paint, but is also very good at getting. He's kind of his mid-range jumpers. Now those aren't very efficient, and UConn and under Hurley's done a pretty good job of keeping the number 1 guys in check. They did a pretty good. The Bants in the first half they tangled them up, and then the second half, the Bants is great. That guy he's a contact merchant. He's always using the elbow to get separation, but we'll see if Pete can get away. I don't think Pete uses that much as he does. There's number 1. Number 2 for me is they got to have that killer instinct that those 2 championship teams for 23, the 23 and 24 teams had. Because on Saturday night they looked like they had it, and then with 10 minutes left, they let go of the rope. And if this was last year's team, they probably would have lost on Saturday night. So the killer instinct, you can't let a team like Arizona back into this thing. And number 3 for me, for UConn to win this basketball game is Jalen Stewart and Jaden Ross. One of those 2 have to be double-digit scorers, because for this UConn team to get to the level that they want, you can count on Caravan, you can count on Reed. Demarius kind of showed you that you can count on him to be a scorer. But if you can get Ross, who's 5 for 11 from 3 so far, or Jalen Stewart to be double-digit guys, then UConn's sitting pretty, because that's another kind of weapon that you can add that, especially right now without Mullins too. Who's a 5-star, shooting guard who, is still projected to go in the lottery. So, for UConn too, that one of those two guys tonight got to be in like double-digit scoring.
Yeah, and you brought about the killer instinct. Yeah, they were up big on BYU, but BYU almost came back to win the game, and they're going to have to keep having this killer instinct because they got a lot of tough games. They got Arizona tonight. They got Illinois the Friday after Thanksgiving. Go to Lawrence, Kansas. They got Florida at the Garden,
Gators.
Texas. They got a lot of tough games in the non-con. They got a brutal non-conference schedule, so they got it. They can't have these second halves against BYU and expect to win. They got to have the first half they had against BYU. Like they got to have the first half they had against BYU.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Because that first half was great. BYU didn't get their first assist till like 2 minutes left in the first half. Like they were playing great basketball, and I know BYU BYU's got some. You saw it. They got some really good scoring. They did a ton of their damage at the free throw line, especially in the second half. So, yeah, UConn again. They got to clean some things up. And look, you have Bryan and East Texas A&M. Those are the last two kind of clean stuff up, and then you got kind of Big East play 2 coming up in a month. So yeah, there's not, you got to kind of fix these things in these types of games as well. So yeah, it's a tough schedule. It's good for them. I like how a lot of these teams are doing it, but I'm not biased. I do think UConn on paper has right now still the toughest non-con. I know people try to say Duke, but do you look at it? Duke's not playing 3 top 10 teams like UConn is, and most of them are. So yeah, I think so I think so UConn's got to have that killer instinct because you let like a team like Arizona could score, Illinois could score, Florida could score. They give up a lot of points. I'm actually very worried about Florida this year. I think this will be pretty good, but they got some concerns. So yeah, UConn's got to have that killer instinct like those 2 national championship teams did.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely have to have that. They definitely have to have that killer instinct. And right now they're 4-0, number 3 in the country. Are they, in your opinion, are they playing like a top 5 team?
Yeah, I think right now, I'd have them. I hate to say it, Duke up there. I think still pretty impressive. Gonzaga. Like I'd probably have those top 3 right now. Probably round out my top 5. Probably Houston and Arizona. So yeah, right now I think they've looked like a top 5 team in the country. I do think the defense has improved. The problem is they still foul a lot. But I think they got the weapons. And again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, they still got Braylon Mullins, who might be back I think he might be back Sunday. Sounds like it gets him 1 game before the Illinois game on Black Friday next week. So that's a guy who's projected to go in the lottery, who could fill it up, who's another ball handler for you. It could play defense too. It could kind of switch probably like 1 through 3 would be my guess. So I think UConn's playing like a top 5 team, and when they get Mullins back and Reed's just getting healthy now, so I really do like this team, and I think they've looked like a top 5 team so far.
All right, prediction for tonight. I'll let you go first.
I'm going to UConn to win it. I'm going to go 83-77.
83-77. You got Arizona covering. They're 6.5 point. UConn's a 6.5 point favorite.
Yeah,
you got them covering.
Yeah, no, I guess I don't. It's moved. I think it was 4.5 or 5. So yeah, I don't have cover. I think because Arizona's a really good team. I think it's be a tough matchup at Gamble. So yeah, I got UConn winning, but yeah, I'm going to take Arizona here to cover. I think they're a really good team.
I'm going UConn. I'm going UConn. I'm going to go UConn 79-72. 79-72 UConn to go to 5-0 and beat another top team. So I got UConn. I think it's just going to be hard for Arizona at Gamble. And Arizona seemed to be a team that really – they really can't win the big game, I feel like.
No, they haven't in a while. They haven't. Tommy Lloyd hasn't made me over that hump either. I used to always pick Arizona to win the bracket, and they always let me down as a kid. So I have
DeAndre Ayton's 1 year. You probably picked them to win when they got upset.
Yeah, and then Bobby Hurley knocks them off that Buffalo team. So yeah, like with Arizona, so I know they never get it done. And I think it's the first time Arizona's been back. The 2001 where they stormed it. That was
Luke Walton. That was a UConn team that missed the tournament, and that was an Arizona team that played in the national title game.
Yeah. That was the first time they've ever stormed Gamble too. That was the first time Gamble was ever court stormed.
Yeah, so, because UConn's usually favored in those games. That UConn team was down, and they pulled the upset.
Yeah, they were down.
Favored. That's why they stormed the court.
Yeah. No. So first time they did it there. Probably so. The last time they've been back at Gamble. I know they were I think in 18. I know Arizona beat them.
Yeah, because you were there. I think you were there
Yeah, I was at the game. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
disappointing one. They should have won that game. I think they
yeah.
I think
That
they
was the year.
blew it.
That was
if I
the year.
remember
That was the
correctly.
year after 18, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Sean
Yeah.
Miller, was he still
Yeah, that
there
was a decent
at that
Arizona
point?
team. What?
Was Sean Miller still there at that
I think
point?
that was Mo's last year. I think
Okay.
that was his last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think they came out in September, that stuff.
Yeah.
It came out. So I believe that was his last year in 18. No, second to last. He was gone in
Second to last.
19. Wait,
Oh, the
I'm
COVID
looking at
year.
KenPom right now. Yeah, 19 was his last year. And they came to Uconn win by 4.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. So yeah, I remember that. I remember that game. So yeah, that was Hurley's first year.
Yeah, that's Hurley's first year. Yeah.
Hurley's first
Yeah,
year.
that
Yeah,
was
Hurley's first year.
I think a Cook committed the day before the Arizona game.
Oh,
I don't
really?
remember
Gotcha.
Cook.
Yeah. And everyone was so excited
That
for a Cook.
Yep.
Remember how
Yep.
excited everyone was for a Cook? I remember
Yep.
that.
And I because my friend played against him in AAU, and he said, dude, he's like, Cook's got no off at the game. I was like, and it was I was like, really? I kind of totally may be wrong about that, but yeah, he was right. Not
he sure
not
did.
much of an offensive game.
He definitely did not have an offensive game. So it should be good. It should be a really exciting night at Gamble between Arizona and UConn. But we'll move on to recapping the Champions Classic. And last night, Michigan State won big over Kentucky. How surprised were you first? How surprised were you that Michigan State played the way they did and Kentucky played the way they did?
Yeah, with Michigan State, I was surprised that they ended up winning by 20. Because Michigan State shot the ball well, which they lost their best shooter before even the year. He's out all year. I think he so because I saw him at UConn and they were not impressive at all. They're off. They did a lot of damage at free throw line. So like Michigan State, I think is going to be like a 6 seed type team. I don't love them, but Kentucky was a $22 million roster, and you could tell that guys are playing for the names on the back of the jerseys and not on the front. And Mark Pope was furious, and they got a bunch of individuals, but they don't fit together, and that's a problem in the NIL transfer portal era. Is you can create as much talent as you want on one team, but if it doesn't fit, this is what's going to happen. So the effort was not there either. Like, man, I've seen some replays where guys are just not even trying to get rebounds and basically just going right over the top of them. I know they're down 2 guys. Kentucky, Quayton is probably a lottery pick. He's so good defensively. Will help anchor that defense, but I'm very concerned about Kentucky. That was embarrassing last night. And I got to listen after the show to the Kentucky Sports Radio postgame show because I can imagine Kentucky. I love listening to them after a loss. They are Kentucky fans.
The fans probably go nuts. They probably go insane.
Oh, yeah.
So, which team? I think it's a pretty obvious question. Which team do you have more confidence making a run in the tournament? Michigan State or Kentucky at this point?
Right now, Michigan State. And I think Michigan State's going to be like a 5 or 6 seed, but they're going to beat that 3 seed in the second round and they're going to end up in the Sweet 16, even though I don't think they're that great, but because the Tom Izzo teams always do. So I'm with you. So I think it's Michigan State right now because with Kentucky, there's too many issues, and I think they have a ton of talent, and I thought before the year they could be a Final Four team, but the way they're playing right now, no. That was embarrassing last night. That may be one of the more embarrassing performances I've ever seen Kentucky play.
Yeah, that was a bad night for Kentucky. And the second game, Kansas knocked off Duke without their star player. Duke knocked off Kansas without Kansas star player with Peterson being out. I think really not really a surprise that Duke won. And we talked about Duke a couple of weeks ago about their expectations. But with Peterson, does Kansas? What are Kansas' expectations? Can they get to a Final Four with him?
Yeah, I think they can if Peterson's healthy. The problem is they just again like last year, the last couple years it feels like with Kansas, they haven't had the shooters to play in these types of games, and and Peterson, because I think Peterson's going to be the number 1 pick if he's healthy. And hopefully that's Sacramento. He's going to. I hope at this point. They better be there. That in top 5, but so I really like Peterson as a scorer. He's just such a smooth he's just such a smooth scorer. It can kind of do it multiple different ways. So there's a total difference with him and him being on the floor and not being on the court. So with Peterson in there, they can I think they're better than last Kansas if Peterson's in there. But they got Melvin Council Jr. from St. Bonaventure. I liked him at St. Bonaventure. He's just not a Power 5 point guard, unfortunately. He's not a great. They don't have and then they also don't have a ton of great shooters around Peterson either, and you saw it last night without him. They struggle to shoot the ball.
Yeah, exactly. They definitely did last night. Yeah, I think that Kansas. Yeah, I think Peterson, because he's so good, I think he gives them a chance to get to the Final Four. So we'll wrap up the show though talking about LeBron. He returned last night for the Lakers in their win over the Jazz. LeBron James returned. Lakers beat the Jazz. Lakers are off to a really good start. Luka Doncic has just been phenomenal. Seeing that the GM we talked about, his former GM got fired, who we talked about last week, was getting fired. So Lakers win last night. I mean, LeBron. Let me just get what he did last night. Let me see what LeBron did. He was in 11 points in 30 minutes last night. So he's back into it. Obviously, Luka was amazing with 37. And really, the big question for the Lakers though is at 11-4, where do you put them in the Western Conference? Are they the biggest threat to the Thunder in the West? I'm going to say no, but I put them right behind the Nuggets. I'm going to say no. I still think it's the Nuggets because they got the best player in the sport. And they got a really good player in Jamal Murray. So and they got another good player in Aaron Gordon. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's the Nuggets are the biggest threat to the Lakers, to the Thunder in the West. But the Lakers, I put them third. I put them third behind the Nuggets and the Thunder.
Yeah, with me too. I got him behind the Nuggets. I got him behind the Spurs as well. If you give me a healthy
Spurs?
Wemby, I know he's out.
Oh, healthy Wemby. So you're high on the Spurs.
Yeah,
you were high on the
am.
Spurs in the preseason. I
was.
I remember that. You were high on the Spurs in the preseason.
Yeah, I was. I know my 1B MVP is probably out, that he's going to miss a couple weeks now, but I really like this talented the Spurs team, and the Lakers, LeBron back. I think it definitely helps. But yeah, you mentioned Luka Doncic played so well, and I like Denver too. I thought before the year Denver could knock off OKC, but that's OKC team may win 70 games. It might be impossible to beat this OKC team. So, but they do have Jokic still, and he's the best player in the sport. So, you never know. But so I'd have the Lakers behind the Nuggets and the Spurs to be threats for the Western Conference.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Lakers are behind the Nuggets. You're going behind the Spurs. I don't remember the Spurs, but I got them behind the Nuggets in the West. I don't think they're the biggest threat, but I think they're a top 3 team with him, with the way Luka's playing and Austin Reeves. To me, they are definitely a top 3 team in the Western Conference. So that's going to wrap it up on this week for Sports Talk with RJ. But we'll be back next week previewing the Thanksgiving Day games, the Giants-Patriot game, and the rest of Week 13 in the NFL and rivalry week in college football. Have a great weekend, everyone.